Hey guys, here we go into round two, film study, flow of the fight for Jeff Horn versus Terence Crawford. And it's a really interesting round, and the kinds of things that Crawford was able to pick up on and make adjustments for Jeff Horn, as Jeff Horn was attempting to make adjustments for him. Now, originally when I watched the fight, I just assumed that Jeff Horn didn't really make an adjustment, but it was really that Crawford was able to take those adjustments away so easily. Now, stick around for the end of the video if you're interested. I did some more film study, and I kind of want to talk about some of the tactics that Crawford used to take away Jeff Horn's physicality and his ability to kind of wrestle him in the ring. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the clinching and some of the other stuff that goes on in the fight, and talk about it from the ref's perspective and talk about it from the fighter's perspective, and kind of give some clarity on it, because sometimes that stuff gets a little jumbled up, especially because so many people think all clinches are the same, and they are not. The clinch is a very complex part of boxing, and why some clinches are allowed to continue and why some clinches are not is kind of lost on a lot of fans. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about that. But we're going to go ahead and get into round two and talk about the film study. So right away, right here, what you can see, Jeff Horn is now attempting to take lead hand dominance away from Crawford. As you saw earlier in the first round, Crawford was able to use lead hand dominance and control Horn and stop Horn from setting his punches up like he wants to, slipping in the inside, probing, feinting, and he was able to take those away from Horn. And once he was able to take those feints and those those setup punches or those setup movements to get Crawford out of position, once he was able to take those away, Horn was only able to throw punches from a distance, and really set himself up to get countered. The idea here is that Crawford is able to take away all the layers of Horn's offense to the most basic and rudimentary level. And that's the idea behind controlling your opponent, is to take away all of their high level stuff to make them a very basic fighter, and getting them to do basically what you want them to do. Now, as you can see, Crawford is playing a hand game with him, but look at how Crawford uses movement as they're playing this game, right? Now they're each challenging each other for control of the space between them, and Horn is attempting to get that space back so that he's allowed to feint and he's allowed to do his own setups. But as you can see, Crawford isn't really playing that game. And when he is playing that game, they touch gloves right there, he's able to feint him a little bit, and Horn thinks that this is a jab, right? But he's really just batting Horn's arm down with his forearm and moving off the line at the same time, creating more space. And Horn figures out, after 10 seconds of this little battle, that he's not going to be able to do anything. And now he gets Crawford to put his lead hand out there when he steps, and he thinks that he's going to be able to kind of counter it with that wild right hook. He does a good job of hiding his head a little bit, but he walks right into this left hook. Now, Crawford hits a little bit with this part of his glove, right? This part of his forearm as he's turning his shot over. He could work on that a little bit, but also a lot of it is the fact that if you watch Horn's head, right, if he comes in at a normal angle right here, the punch is going to be fine, but Horn really dips his head down and puts it into a position where once it's turned over, Crawford basically misses the punch. So it's not a question of him being dirty. It's just he's attacking a target that's moving full speed at him while he's trying to attempt to turn his shot over. But what he does with all the lead hand dominance, he's able to stop Horn from setting up his punch enough or giving Horn the confidence that he has to get him out of position. As you can see, Crawford, through all this head movement, this slipping, this whatever, Crawford understands that as long as his glove is out there, he's got control of Horn's lead hand, then Horn is going to have very minimal opportunities to really set his shots up. So even though he's doing all of this stuff, he's doing it at a range where he's not able to really set a shot up or get Crawford out of position, and Crawford feels comfortable being in that position. And then he gets Horn to basically sell out and eat a shot right there. And then they kind of get into this clinch, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later at the end of the fight. But after that, right, what did we learn from this engagement? That he can get Crawford to go first, right? Or that he can get Crawford to open up as well. So Horn's going to make an adjustment, and now he's going to use a probing style where he flashes his lead hand out twice, and he gets Crawford to start putting his hand out there. He gets Crawford to put his hand out there to control him, and then Jeff Horn looks to take advantage of that control because they just battled it out, and he's seen that when he looks to control, that Crawford's going to look to control back, and now he tries to set a trap up off of that control, but he doesn't understand that Crawford is not committed to this, and he's easily able to take a step back and get Horn to be the first one to commit to an action and counter him. And the first counter doesn't land, but this is what's beautiful about this. He still sets up the next shot, and he goes in for the next shot, a very experienced fighter in Crawford. And now, again, we have Horn doing the same tactic, flashing the lead hand control, and then Crawford looks to counter him or control him with the jab and move off the line this time while Horn is throwing his right hand. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's 1-2, but he doesn't realize that because of the fact that Crawford is able to control him with his own lead hand, and again, Horn is trying to counter the lead hand dominance, he doesn't understand that it's not a real punch, that he's not committed to it, and Crawford is still very aware and alert that he's only using this tactic to set up his shots. Now again, 1-2, commit to offense, and then Crawford's able to find some offense. Again right here, 1, and then 2, and then Horn slides in, and notice how he's thrown 3 different punches now. The first one was the right hook over the top of the lead hand control. The second one was a right hand, or a straight right hand, trying to, wait, did I say right hook or left hook? I meant left hook over the control. Now this one is a straight, and the next one was a straight right hand. Oh goodness, the straight right hand. When they try to touch gloves, when Crawford tries to touch gloves, and Crawford moves off the line. Now this time, Horn is going to the body with it because he's like, oh, okay, those other punches didn't work, so he's making an adjustment. Now, this one catches Crawford on the elbow and then winds up straying a little low, so it's not his fault, but we're not going to blame him for it being a low blow. Crawford is the one that blocked it, and then Crawford goes to tie up once they're inside. And we're going to be talking about this again later, why this was effective against him. Now, this is beautiful. This is where Crawford really starts to take advantage of that timing that Horn was setting up, right? And the first one is, so probe, and now that was 1-2, and now Crawford says, hey, this is where I'm going to start opening up my offense and start taking advantage of the patterns that Horn is representing. So again, it's probe, and then he starts coming in as if he's going to throw a punch, just like he did in the previous 3 engagements, and Crawford says, nope, I'm going to catch him with the shot. He misses, right, because Horn is paying attention too. Horn's a smart fighter. He's a smart guy. He's just not very well schooled, but he knows, he's very good at all the things that he knows. Now moving on. Probe, and now this is beautiful again. Let's see if that was in the same clip. Okay, and now Horn is pressing him, right? But he's not using the lead hand control. Now he goes to the lead hand control, whoops, probe, and then Crawford goes with the right hook instead this time to control Horn and make him reset, and then beautifully shoots the jab and moves off the line with him. Now this is a continuous clip right here. This is beautiful. This is a continuous clip right here. Boom. And then he moves off the line, and now Horn presses him with the lead hand, and then Crawford says, hey, this is the timing again. I know that he's trying to fake me, and Horn goes for another body shot right here, but Crawford tries to time him with his own right hand off of the same offense, the same probe, and then committing to his offense. It doesn't work because Horn has very good head movement. Whereas, and this is going to be really interesting when he fights other fighters in the division, specifically Errol Spence, who has almost no head movement. And I think that, touching on this base, this is a great indication of how good Crawford is and how many opportunities he might have to really walk Errol Spence into some shots. And when I do the film study on Crawford versus Spence, I'll very likely do it off of this film and talk about it, because I do think he'll fight him as a right-handed fighter. But anyway, moving on. Crawford's still looking for his offense, still hasn't found it, so he's still looking to make adjustments, and then boom, now he makes the right adjustment. So we've got Horn coming forward, probing lead hand, and then this time, rather than wait for Horn to go first because he knows what he's trying to do, he just times him while he's stepping forward and catches him and goes to the body this time. So he doubles up on his adjustment here. Rather than waiting for Horn to attack and countering the attack, he attacks when he knows that Horn is very likely to set something up and try and land a shot. Now this is beautiful too. The next scene, has whoops, boom, great shot. Has Horn probing with the lead hand, and then pulling back because he's picking up on the fact that Crawford is timing him on this, and that's when Crawford is looking to throw punches. So Horn is now starting to set traps for Crawford, and he does so here. And this is really beautiful from Horn, but obviously it doesn't transfer for the rest of the fight. Crawford is able to take it away in the later rounds, but we'll see how it kind of lands here. But so probe, and then Crawford feints him, right? And Horn's like, okay, I know what he's trying to do. And now Horn takes a step back. And then as Horn is taking a step forward on that timing that we talked about in round one, where every time he takes a step forward, right, Crawford looks to throw the jab and catch him with the shot, and Horn is able to slip it and land his own overhand right hand against Crawford. So Horn being a little more intelligent than I gave him credit for initially because these moments are so few and far between. Anyway, moving on. Beautiful shot again. Crawford on that same timing. Whoops, it went too far back. I don't know why it does that. But shoots that jab, and then Horn comes forward on that front foot timing, touches gloves with Crawford, right, like the probing style, goes to touch gloves again with the probing style, and then Crawford instead, boom, cracks him with a beautiful shot on that same probe, expecting offense, but now he's taking that away from Horn and stopping him from being able to set those probes up or even feel comfortable doing them by timing him on the attacks of his probes, understanding that they're not real punches, that Jeff Horn is not looking to throw jabs at him and taking that away. Now, this is beautiful from Horn. So watch Horn as he goes back. And now this is continuous footage, the same exchange. Horn starts moving forward, right? And then he brings his hands up, and he knows that that's the timing that Crawford is looking to land his jab, that quick steal-a-punch jab and score points, right? Now, right after that, he bounces back, and then when he bounces forward, again, he brings his gloves up when he's on that left foot. Now he's going to take a step here, transition back, and then as he's transitioning back, he understands that when he takes a step onto his lead foot, that Crawford is going to look to land a shot against him. Watch him feint right there. Boom. Feint him when he gets on that lead leg, and then touch gloves when he gets on that lead leg, and then Crawford does take the bait right here because of the fact that Horn looked like he was going to probe, right? And Crawford looks to time him, and Horn is able to land a shot, you know? So Horn is not like completely oblivious. He's a smart fighter. He's just not well schooled. He needs more coaching. He needs a better coach. He needs someone to really teach him what it is he's supposed to be doing in the ring and how to, you know, maneuver setting up his punches a little better so that he can have more success. And then again, right, the same timings. Horn steps with his left leg. Crawford tries to catch him with the jab and then winds up getting caught with the hook again. Another trap in the same few seconds from Jeff Horn. Now, it's not super effective, obviously, because it doesn't wind up winning in the fight. But we're gonna look at round 3 and see how that kind of stuff progresses, and then look at the other adjustments that Horn makes, as well as the other adjustments that Crawford makes. Not necessarily that Crawford needs to make any, but they will be coming. And again, some more really interesting stuff. If you watch this, notice how Horn is no longer looking to control the space between him and his opponent. In spite of the fact that he's figured out that he can set traps for that, he's not doing it right now. And Crawford's not controlling the space either because he wants to invite Horn in after he's reduced him to the most basic level of offense. And now he's basically finally at the end of the round figured out a time where he can get him to that position. Unfortunately for him, steps. When Horn steps here, He understands that this is the timing that Crawford is looking to set up. So he hasn't figured out that Horn is setting him up for shots too. Even though that straight left hand doesn't land, it looks really good in this frame, right? It looks really good that he's about to try and shoot that shot. Unfortunately for him, Crawford's able to parry it with his jab hand. If you see his front hand is on Jeff Horn's right hand, he's able to parry it and then get control of Jeff Horn like that. When Jeff Horn, lays on top of him and tries to be physical, Crawford says, nope, none of that, and just stands up rather than allowing Jeff Horn to control his neck. Very smart. Now, again, Horn coming in, and he doesn't feel comfortable controlling the space. He doesn't feel comfortable using his lead hand because Crawford has taken that away from him by punching him in the face when he would do it. He doesn't feel comfortable feinting. It's not working. So he comes in and he tries a feint without his hands, and he tries to do it with his feet. So he takes a step right there, thinking that Crawford is going to counter him, and then takes the shift, but Crawford goes with a different counter right here, which doesn't land, but it shows that Crawford is paying attention to the fact that Horn is looking to set him up and bait him into a shot off that lead foot. Unfortunately for Horn, he kind of telegraphs it by ducking down first and not staying on the line or keeping his head on the line with Crawford, and Crawford's able to make an adjustment and try to catch him with that shot right there. Now the last round, or the last clip that we're going to show of this one, is the same thing. Now, again, beautiful work. Horn coming forward, feinting, and then as soon as he feints, in order to take that feint away, Crawford gives him a feint of his own. So feint, and Crawford feints him and gives him a probe, a controlling lead hand. Now, boom, beautiful hook right here. And the way that he sets it up, Horn flashes the lead hand, and Crawford has seen this, again, multiple times during the round and knows that this is his opportunity to land that beautiful left hook right there and really make Jeff Horn kind of pay for that same repeating style of offense that he's had. So in this round, Horn has made adjustments. He's made adjustments to the timing of the stepping on the front foot. He made adjustments to the flashing the lead hand. And by the way, that is nearly exactly how Errol Spence sets up his left hand when he's fighting orthodox fighters. It's almost always, and if you watch the Kell Brook fight, it's almost exactly the same way. He'll be in position, flash the lead hand as he takes lead foot dominance, and then smash with that left hand. So boom, and then bam, or the body shot, whatever punch he wants to throw. But it's almost exactly the same as Errol Spence, and we can see here that Crawford has already seen this style. He's practiced against it, and he's actually used it in a professional fight against a world champion and taken that offense away and made it ordinary, made it ineffective. So that's round two. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the way that Crawford was able to stop Horn from being physical. As you can see at the beginning of round two, and we're going to be only using film from round two, but he shoots the jab, and Horn comes in, and he shoots the jab to counter him and to control him, right? Obviously countering him, and immediately moves off the line, right? Beautiful work from Crawford when he shoots the jab, and it winds up being a double jab, and he moves off the line so that Horn doesn't get to barrel into him. Again, another technique right here, when Horn starts pressing forward, and we talked about this one before, Horn gives away that he's going to be using this attack, and instead of staying on the line with him, which would allow Horn to grab him or manipulate his body and control him so he can maul him, Crawford just moves off the line and then controls him with his own jab. Now, this one's a little interesting because Crawford shoots that left hook, kind of lands, but it kind of doesn't, and then he looks to control Horn's head. Now, I know that a lot of the Australian fans were like, oh, Crawford's holding, Crawford's doing this, Crawford's, but what happens here is Crawford wants to spin out here, and he's shown this move before, but what happens is Horn grabs his arm around Crawford's waist and stops him from moving, as you can see as they move to the side. So Crawford is looking to control his head, might be a little excessive, but Horn is the one that's pulling and holding Crawford next to him. Crawford's not going to let go of his head if Jeff Horn is also holding him as well. Now, I know this is not going to get a lot of fanfare from the the Australian fans, I understand what you guys are saying. Holding, two wrongs don't make a right, right? But but the reason that Crawford is continuing to hold is because Horn has control of his body as well. So Crawford just continues to hold him while he's being held. Now, the idea here is that Crawford isn't looking to punch here, right? He's not holding Jeff Horn's head down and catching him with uppercuts. But what Jeff Horn is doing here is actually illegal. He's holding Crawford around the body, right? Holding him around the body and then pulling him into these shots. Boom, boom. And they don't look super effective, but when you get to counterbalance your weight by swinging your opponent into your fist, you're going to hit them so much harder than you really expect. So while it's not super effective. It's not like being able to get all your weight into your shot and being able to like really cream someone. You're going to be able to kind of leverage it, throw them a little bit off balance. Maybe their head kind of wobbles when you shake them, whatever. But you might be able to get them off balance with the shot and score free points, And besides, nobody likes getting smacked in the head, pop, pop. But anyway, so I don't really have a problem with the holding here from Crawford as he's being held and hit. Now, this instance, this is really cool right here. So what happens here is, I don't know why it keeps going back. Oh, I got to redo it. That's why. I updated VLC. So it messed with my presets. It's supposed to only do 2 seconds. So Horn comes in. Crawford looks to control his head. Loses control of his head. Now Crawford is in a horrible position right here. So what does he do? He looks to control Jeff Horn's right hand because that's what Jeff Horn wants to hit him with. So he tries to grab it, and he misses, but he controls it enough to keep it under his arm so that he can't be hit with it. Then he looks to smother him, and Jeff Horn does a brilliant job of bringing his hand up and getting it out of the way of the clinch of Crawford. So what does Crawford do? It's actually a wrestling technique where you want to get the underhooks, right? So you want to get under your opponent's arms so you can leverage the top half of their body. You can kind of pick them up and stop them from being able to leverage their own weight, and you can kind of wrestle them around. So what he does is he brings his arm up and he pins Jeff Horn's arm up to his head. Now, the reason that they're being broke here, and I didn't talk about that. I'm going to go back real quick. I'll talk after this engagement. But Jeff Horn is holding on the left side. Crawford is holding on the left side, so the referee has to break them because they're both holding. But what I want to go back to is this scene right here. Now, if Crawford is holding him, but Jeff Horn is not holding him, Jeff Horn is allowed to punch, and there will be no reason to break them. The reason that they're being broken is because Jeff Horn is holding on the side. And you can also see that Crawford is holding. And because both fighters are holding, you have to break them. But if only one fighter is holding and his head is being held down, that fighter is allowed to punch. He's allowed to, boom, get in there, land some shots. But he's not allowed to hold as well. The only problem with that for Horn is that he's not going to be able to, because of the movement of Crawford, he's not going to be able to hold Crawford down because Crawford's going to circle out right here. So he has to hold him in order to get to stop him from creating the distance between them. Now, the next one, this one's beautiful too. Whoops, again, he comes down. Horn does a good job of getting his arm up and not having it being tied down to his body and being kind of stuck here, right? So he gets his arm up, so he winds up not being held. But brilliantly, he's able to pull him in and control both of his arms. Again, now, I think this clip is a little out of place. Yeah, I had them backwards. So this one is at, whoops. We'll go back to that one, actually. So right here, this clip happens in the second round before that last one. So we're going to go back and talk about it. So Crawford looks to parry him, create space. And as Horn comes in, Crawford looks to tie him up, right? And now, because he wasn't able to create an angle or move off the line, he just ties him up. Clinching happens, right? Do I want to see it? No, I don't want to see it. I'm not a fan. There are other ways to control the space, move off the line. You don't have to clinch, right? You can come down, boom, come up with your forearm, and then push off and roll off of your opponent. There are a lot of things that you can do. But again, if Jeff Horn is going to be trying to grab you and hold you next to him so he can punch you, which is illegal, you don't combat illegal tactics with legal ones. because the referee is not going to save you. You know, look at Kovalev. Look at Kovalev and Ward. Does anybody even care that Kovalev's not the champion anymore? Like, even with the people that thought that those punches were, some of them were low, some of them were not, you know, let's just say that they were low, right? Let's just say, for argument's sake, does anybody give a shit, you know, almost a year after the fight or however long ago it was, that Kovalev lost his belts? Nah, nobody. You look at BoxRec, who got the win? Andre Ward got the win. So you don't get any points in this game for being a baby, right? You got to do what you got to do, whether or not you like it or not, because officiating is freaking hard in this sport. Because the the object of this game is to hurt your opponent. Um, so a lot of that stuff kind of just gets swept under the rug. You know, it's gray areas. The rules aren't clearly defined. The referees are from, you know, three different eras of boxing, and they don't know most of them what they're doing. It's easy to buy them. But anyway, let's not talk about like conjecture and like all that garbage or anyway. Um, let's get back to the wrestling part. Now this is interesting because Crawford is not going to do this very well right here. So he does a good job of getting the underhook on the right side of Horn with his left arm, but look at how low his right arm is on Horn's left side, right? Horn is able to sneak that left hook in there and catch him with the shot. And that's because Crawford was only grabbing him by the body and not getting him near the armpit, which is going to stop him from being able to make any motions with his arms. Now in the very next engagement, oh, okay, I think I wait. Oh yeah, I have that clip in there twice then. So this is the very next engagement. Crawford does the same thing. Horn does a good job of getting his forearm on him and holding him up. Crawford grabs him, gets it high so he can stop him from throwing punches, pinches his arm in there. And now look at how high Crawford's right arm is on Horn. He's got it so high and he's bringing it up so that Horn is no longer able to throw punches on the inside, right? And then they start wrestling. And then obviously at this point, the referee has to break them. There's just no chance. No, there's no choice, right? So by doing a little bit of wrestling on the inside, which, you know, if Horn's going to grab me, I'm going to wrestle him. You know, I'm not going to allow that kind of stuff. But then again, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you expect Horn to fight in a way that is not physical, that is not, you know, bending the rules a little bit? Absolutely not. The only chance that I gave him in this fight was to make it a very physical and rough fight for Crawford and steal points on the inside and hope that it's enough with the judges. Because I think everyone knew that Crawford had more skill than and more boxing knowledge than Horn, but we all expected Horn to be able to do a better job of bullying Crawford around, which was just not the case. Crawford, I guess someone in the comment section said that Crawford used to be a wrestler, and because of that reason, he understands how important the underhooks are, how important it is to control your opponent on the inside, and he did a fantastic job of that. And that's actually one of the things that I think is probably would be really, really, really good for every boxer is to learn some wrestling, because so much of that mentality of setting your wrestling moves up, you know, baiting someone into, you know, going for a full Nelson when you want to do something else. I don't know any wrestling terms, but boxing is basically wrestling in that regard. When you want to feint, you want to make your opponent defend something low, right? And then they go to defend something low, and then boom, you come over the top with a shot, and you just wreck them. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks, guys.